Order the January 14th regular meeting of the Dayton City Council. Stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll need a motion and second for the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Dave
Second.
and Scott. Any adjustments?
Yes, Mayor, members of council, we have one item to be added to the end of consent agenda and one sent out yesterday in an email. Apologize about the delay, but it is for an approval of a Elevate Hennepin agreement that was approved by the EDA, but the county attorney is requesting it to be approved by the city and not the EDA. So,
Any other changes?
Is this when we ask for the consent agenda changes?
You can have something pulled out if you want.
Yep, I would like to discuss item C and item L from the consent agenda.
I mean, you want, is it possible you'll vote no on those, or you just want to discuss?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, so it's which ones?
C and L.
C and L we will pull out.
we will place those just after the consent agenda, so we'll discuss consent and then discuss those two items.
Okay,
Thank you.
after open forum.
If you'd like to do after open forum, you can, otherwise we could do it right after consent. Whatever
Yeah,
you
why don't we
think,
do
Mayor.
it right after?
Okay.
Any other changes?
Were we supposed to do the oath of office first?
I was just going to mention that. Do we want
Oh, I
to do
did
the
skip
oath
that.
of office so that they can be voting members?
That is true. You know what? Yeah, before we vote, we probably have to do that. All right.
We can just hold the vote for a minute.
Yep.
Fine.
Yeah.
Who, you want to go first? Do you want to go first? Or?
Don't care.
You can go first, Sarah.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay, and you want Amy to do it, or do you want?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Amy can do it.
or doesn't matter to me.
Come on up. So, there's your copy. I, Sarah Van Aston,
I, Sarah Van Aston,
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of office for the City of Dayton as a council member
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office for the City of Dayton as a council member
in the counties of Hennepin and Wright,
in the counties of Hennepin and Wright,
the State of Minnesota,
the State of Minnesota,
according to law and the best of my judgment and abilities.
according to law and the best of my judgment and ability.
All right.
And then if you want to... Thank you. Come on up. I, Stephanie Henderson,
I, Stephanie Henderson,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office for the City of Dayton
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of the City of Dayton
as a council member
as a council member
in the counties of Hennepin and Wright,
in the counties of Hennepin and Wright,
the State of Minnesota,
the State of Minnesota,
according to law and the best of my judgment and abilities.
according to the law and the best of my judgment and abilities.
All right.
Now you can vote.
Now we can vote.
Is this your pen?
That's on public forum, I think. Public.
Before we go, I've got some questions on payment of claims. Or is it-
Okay, so we're done with changes here?
I think so.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Agenda carries 5-0. Now we're going to consent. Any motion and second?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Dave, and Sarah, and that is, okay, so discussion. Go ahead, Scott.
Basically, just questions as far as the bonds. There's a few bonds that were payments made.
That's
Are any
correct.
of them payoffs or?
None of
just
them are
payments?
payoffs,
Okay.
just payments.
Flock system, 6 cameras?
We were able to get 7. We were able to get 7 of them for the same price as
Same
what was
money, yeah.
budgeted.
Let's see, Graco TIF of the 560, does that end in 26?
It does not end in 26, so that will, it's projected to end, I think, in 27 or 28.
Okay.
Depends on how much taxes are continued to be generated from that facility, but
And the money for Moortown that came from,
Morton, yep.
we put it in there though.
Yep, so basically it's not really payment of claims. We have to move the money from our bank account into the investment account.
Yep.
And to do that, we have to technically put it through the payment of claims, even though it's just a transfer between our bank accounts, essentially.
Okay.
And that's for collateral purposes, for the audit. We can't be under collateralized. Essentially, when the bank has our money, they have to have it in super safe funds. They can't have it invested in a bunch of things. And so they only have so much collateral on hand for us. If we have technically funds that are uncollateralized and the bank were to fail, we would lose anything that's uncollateralized. And so because of that, we had to move money out from, we got our tax settlement in.
Okay.
But we
Yeah.
don't pay a payment of the bonds until January. So based on the end of the month stuff, we had to move it out, and then I moved it back in yesterday or today.
Okay. I believe that is all I have.
Good question.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I had, under item B, I had a question on page 7. There was a renewal subscription for ClearGov.
Yeah.
Can,
Just ask your question.
I guess I'm just curious what that is.
Councilmember Solonic had emailed me earlier about the same question, and I said, you should ask the question tonight, and he didn't, so glad it came up. So ClearGov is our digital budget book, and it's the ability for us to have a budget book that's put together at the end of the year. And we're working on getting that more integrated into our website as well that comes forward. So I think this was discussed 2 or 3 years ago. We've had it for 2 or 3 years, about being able to have it utilized by the public to be able to run budget scenarios on their own and be able to run and see different scenarios and run graphs and run information. We just have not been able to get it on our website in an effective manner that would make it worthwhile for a resident to be able to do that. So that is something that we're looking to do this year in 2025. So, but it's just a renewal of that.
This is an annual subscription?
That's the annual subscription of that.
Okay.
That's correct.
And then a second one, also a subscription, was to First Due. I think that's a fire department one.
Yes, Councilman DeShant, that's our records management system annual subscription for $10,500.
Okay,
There's a lot of subscriptions that are due at the beginning of the year.
yeah. Yeah, there were quite a few on the list. Let's see, I thought I had one other one that wasn't pulled here. Of course, I have to comment on the change order 3 under item F, that we are getting bit once again on unsuitable soil. And I don't know if that's something we can ever stop, but it's on every project.
That's just a timeline change. It's an extension of the completion date, not a monetary change with that one.
With,
Well House 5,
yes,
yeah. That was because
but it was described as unsuitable soil.
Yeah, the site was very wet, and we didn't feel comfortable putting the pavement down, so we told them to wait until spring, which didn't allow enough time prior to the completion date, so we allowed an extension of the completion date instead.
But that was more about weather than necessarily, so we had a very wet fall.
More so, yeah, there was
Yeah.
quite a few rain events right before, and we're up to the end time for getting mix for doing the paving.
That's all I have.
Anybody else? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Consent passes 5-0. And then we will go into item C. We need a motion and a second for that one.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I'll make the second. You want discussion on this, right?
I want the discussion, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So, kind of to your earlier point about issues with soils that aren't good, the reason that's given for the change order is that due to the existing slopes, which kind of makes me feel like they're existing, you already knew about them. Why was that not accounted for in the initial cost if they were existing slopes? It doesn't sound like it's a new thing that just came out of the blue, so.
Yeah, it was a side slope on the tie-in where they installed the hydrant. We felt they would be able to, or we anticipated they would be able to install the hydrant while maintaining the slope in its position. When we got in there, it was unsafe for the workers to be in there working, and then additionally, we felt it wouldn't be good for future access to the hydrant. So we removed additional soils. Unfortunately, we didn't have the land rights to use the material up on site, and it required to be hauled off site. We didn't have any provisions in the bid to haul material off site, therefore the change order for that
Okay.
work.
And does that still keep us under the amount that was escrowed by the developer?
Yeah, we're well under the amount escrowed for the entire project.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that the mayor and council both knew that that's Territorial main extension is paid for by a developer. We were just running the project for them.
Okay.
They gave us an escrow of $500,000, I believe it was agreed upon, and then they are paying for the costs to the project. So just so you're aware, that's probably helpful for Councilmember Van Hasten and Councilmember Henderson, so you know what that project is, so you see it in the future. And then we will return any escrow funds that are remaining under the $500,000 once we're all done with the project. So.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That was my big thing, is if it was existing, why didn't we account for it? So, okay.
Any other discussion on C? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Carries 5-0. Item L, I need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'm going to second.
Okay, discussion.
Gary, I'm going to second.
I'm not opposed, I obviously didn't see the original. It shocks me that the bids are literally double the price. And so I'm just curious how, I mean, it's one thing if it was like, $20,000 higher, but how is it literally double the price? Can someone talk me through that, I guess?
Councilman Madison, I can't necessarily answer that. These are the same contractors that we used to bid out the office expansion upstairs last year, and I'm pretty sure it was very similar. So
Okay.
Highmark is a company that we use to help the community if there's a board up. So they're a board up company, but they're also a contractor. So they came in and they bid both projects last time, and then Sean and his business, I forget the name of it exactly, but he did the office expansion upstairs, so he's kind of a sole proprietor, if you will, and
Okay.
lives here in Dayton.
Okay.
So I can't exactly explain the grave differences, but yeah.
That, because my dad used to work in construction, and usually if there was a bid that's way out of the rest of them, but with only two, it's hard to know who is actually way out of bounds on this one, because there's not a third one to so typically, do we usually only have two bids, or do we usually have more than two bids to work off of?
We've done two, we can do three.
Okay.
No issue. If you like another, that's fine.
It just
we can
helps
reach
put the
out.
other two in context,
Sure.
so because if two are close and one is off, you kind of question the one that's off, but when you only have two and they are literally twice, one is literally twice as high, just
Sure.
raised some red flags for me, that was all.
Nope, understood, and happy to get a third. I'm guessing I'm not sure, I guess it depends on who it is in that capacity, so.
And I'm fine, knowing that this is pretty typical and that you've worked with Creative Home Solutions before and you feel like they will do a good job, and it wasn't. My other concern would be someone coming in with low bids and then anticipating doing change orders after their bid has been accepted. That would be my other concern.
Yeah, no, with Sean and his business, we've had zero issues.
Okay, perfect. Then I'm fine with it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Didn't we kind of budget 50 for this project? I
We
think
did. We did. We tried to ballpark it
Right.
at 50.
Okay.
And obviously the 108 or whatever is way out of the ballpark.
And I'm glad you guys are here, because you'll take the pressure off of change orders now for me.
That's right. I had, just two questions. So as part of this project, they're installing some appliances. Do we own those already, or are those on top of this bid?
That will come out of fire department's budget on top of that. So there'll be dishwasher, stove, microwave.
Yeah.
So that would not be included in that.
Okay. And it was a little, I don't know, creative maybe to call out a $55,000 savings between the high bid and the low bid. That, I mean, one of them's a throwaway and the other one's the real one, so I don't know what.
And like I said, I'm happy to get a third to comparison. I'm not sure where it would come in. If the council would like that, that's not an issue.
Yeah, I don't have a need to see a third one, but if other people do.
Like I said, not for this, but moving forward, it would be nice to help put the other ones in context.
Sure.
Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. And then we are on to open forum. Limited to 3 minutes for non-agenda items. State your name and address. No council action will be taken and items will be referred back to staff. Is anybody here for open forum? Come forward.
Thank you. This is kind of for the
Name it.
benefit of our new council members. My name is Marcia Grover. I live up in 312 from Brookline. I've been coming to many council meetings lately, and if there's one thing I noticed, it's that the council seems to bend over backwards for developers. They can't say no. Here are just a few examples I've seen in the last few months. A developer wants to change zoning of a farm field from agricultural to commercial. There's nothing in the comp plans for this area to be commercial. It's only designated as a residential. Either stick to the comp plan or throw it out and let all the citizens do what they want to with their property. Another time, a developer came to the council to get final approval of the plan he wanted to build. A council member mentioned a few changes to make it easier for safety vehicles to get in and out, and the developer claimed that he would have to give up a lot. Suddenly, the discussion about safety ends. Another time, a developer comes before the council to give variances to build an 80-foot tall sign because traffic on the freeway just could not see his business. In fact, a member of the council offered another variance too, even though the builder only wanted one, not two. This builder had already built one business in town and should have been familiar with the sign ordinance in Dayton. No one suggested that perhaps the business try putting up the blue signs on the freeway, maybe even two. One for food and one for gas. Maybe put up a billboard in Rogers. They seem to like billboards in Rogers. Advertising the business 2 miles ahead on the right. Granting a variance is opening up a can of worms for that. The business knew the lay of the land when they bought it, and they also knew the sign ordinance, having built the same business just a few months before. Now everybody at that intersection will use the same complaint of visibility to get their signs raised. That same company is doing the very same thing up in Brainerd. They're building a business up there, and they went before the council there to ask for a variance for a higher sign. And they're right on Highway 371, right on the main north-south drag. And here's another one. A builder of a humongous apartment building can't supply enough parking spaces for the tenants. Council response, no problem, we don't care. A member of the council even stated that it was the builder's problem. Since there's no mass transit available over there at that location, the renter would absolutely have to have a car to go to work, to pay the money, to earn the money, to pay the rent for an apartment where he doesn't have a parking spot. Maybe suggest that they should decrease the number of apartments available then. What'll happen if the residents don't have some place to park? They'll start parking where they shouldn't. Police will be called. You might want to consider a police substation there anyway with all the units going in there. I see a lot of problem with our city's future there. The same developer mentions plans to build yet another gas station. Wouldn't more cars be beneficial to the sale of gas for that guy? Wouldn't he want more parking spots? I've lost count of how many this will make on the south end of town now. Will it be 6 or 7 gas stations? And all south of 117th Avenue. Or will he need a variance for his signs too? Stop bending over backwards to please these guys. They all knew what the land looked like when they bought it. You don't work for them. If the Met Council says 3 houses per acre, then that should be the maximum. That's the rule. Stick to the comp plan. Why even have one if you're just going to ignore it? Don't grant variances. Instead, consider and offer alternatives for those to choose from. Think things through. Think outside the box. Don't let them make the decisions. That's your job. Remember, your choices have implications, and people will say, well, if they can do it, why can't I? I witnessed the Planning Commission and the City Council micromanage variances and permits, and I wonder, who's going to enforce all the rules on those variances? Do we have a department that's going to be checking on that? You know as well as I do that no one will ever check up on those stipulations. Instead, just say no. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online?
So if you wanted to speak in open forum, can you use the raise your hand function?
Okay, we will close up in the forum.
I think,
Yeah, I can just talk now.
You're on the edge. Is this about your item?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then
we'll
wait.
We'll wait, yep. Okay, staff consultant council update, Zach.
Yes, the mayor and members of the council, I wanted to welcome Councilmember Van Asten and Councilmember Henderson to the council. Appreciate the ability to come on to council and jump on board right away. Look forward to having a great couple of years together as a council. And then another update that's kind of important is the wellhead treatment plant, so that everyone's aware. We did post this week for 2 weeks, which is the last required posting for the AW process to get moving. And then we were able to request funds as of February 2nd. We have notified Magni to begin construction, and they have started their 90 to 120 day clock. So you should see some movement on that site again, end of March, end of April, somewhere in there.
I don't know if that's you guys or them. But
Currently, that is probably a different contractor doing some work on the well related to that sand that was at the bottom of the well. But you will see some movement on that site again with Magni construction in April. So we look forward to having that thing done. Our plan, and we're knocking on wood and pushing as much as we can, is to be done by the end of this year. That is our goal. So thank you very much.
Amy?
We have the State of the Cities coming up, and just wondering who all is able to or would like to attend that. That is going to be held on January 28th from 11 until about 2. Gives you a nice overview of all the surrounding cities, and then we get an opportunity to share information about our city as well.
Yeah.
So if you
I'll
can,
be on.
okay. So I'll have you two down for sure. If the rest of you want to check your calendar and let me know. If you can let me know by Friday of this week, so I can get everyone signed up that needs to go. And then I will be out of the office and be missing the next council meeting.
Mayor and Council, I have a couple of items in regards to well 4. The rehab there is going well. They've been pressurising the well to release the sand that's coming into the well. They've got it to stop having extra sand come into the well now. So once they've pressurised it and depressurised it, that's when the sand comes in. They haven't noticed any going into the bottom of the well now. So we're moving on to the next stage, which is sucking that sand out of the bottom of the well. Once that's complete, then we will start test pumping the well to see that it runs clear, and we'll take samples of that water to see that there's no sand in that before we put it back online. So there's still a bit of work to do in there yet, but it's looking good.
Is that testing that's done initially when they do a well?
Yeah, they do that initially. For the test well, they'll do that, and then they will do that on the actual production well before it goes into service. It can't produce a lot of sand, and we did do this before, but after it went into production, it has started producing more sand again. So this time I had them go over and above what we would normally do,
That was my next
and
question.
we will do the same with sucking the sand out and the test pumping as well to make sure we've got it as clean
And the
as we
thinking
can.
is the higher pressure will bring more sand down.
Yeah, that's the idea. Ice rinks, we've been struggling with ice rinks, but we have got them in pretty good condition. We were shaved the heaves and bumps off of them last week and did some flooding. This week we've been out with the Zamboni, just putting some thin films of water down. They're looking pretty good. They could still be better, but they are in good condition to be able to skate on. The lights are on at the field down here, so that's available. The one at Sundance is in good condition as well. We'll keep working on those to maintain them. We did get approved for a Hennepin County Youth Grant for some batting cages down at McNeil Park. We got $12,400 of the cost. The cost is $27,000. The remainder of the cost is going to be covered by CDAA, and the city is going to do the construction for those. Elsie Stevens Bridge, the contract's been working with the bridge fabricator with drawings and submissions, looking at materials and what the installation is going to look like. They will be working on site in the ravine to get that stabilized and ready to receive the bridge ahead of the thaw. So their work should be done by mid-February. The bridge will be on site middle of April, and then the project should be concluded by the end of May. The RFP for Elsie Stevens, the proposal should be in on Friday by 12 noon this week. Then we'll review with staff will review the submissions, and then it will go through to the Park Commission for them to review those and recommendations to the council for the first meeting in February, with the hope of awarding a contract by the last meeting in February. The park improvements that were postponed from last year, the 95% plans should be in front of the Park Commission on the 4th of February. And then the 98% plans will be presented to Council on the 25th of February. That's all I have.
Marty, I'm just wondering if the repairs to the pump for well 4 had been completed.
Yeah, they've been completed. The pump people are holding it at their shop for us while we get this other thing sorted out. So that's ready to start us go back in as soon as we got this test pumping. The test pumping will be done by the well drillers. They'll bring a separate pump out to do that rather than install our pump. So that's how that will work.
Yeah, okay, good.
Chief?
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, mayors and members of council. We have started the process and signed a contract with HyperReach. So HyperReach will be the community's emergency mass notification system. Probably take, I'm going to guess, about 60 to 90 days to get up and running. We are going to use the communicator to advertise it because it is an opt-in service. So we want to get as many people interested in it as possible. So more on that to come. Also, from additional emergency management things, we are rolling out to all city staff IS 700, asking city staff to take IS 700 so they become familiar with what emergency management is, along with 100 at some point throughout the year. I invite council if you're interested, let Zach know and we can get that information out to you. There are both online classes for that, so thank you.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. Looking on putting on a threat assessment training for city council and staff. It's a 60 to 90 minute training. I'd like to do it either March 11th or March 25th. Be a 5 o'clock start for the council. If one of those dates work the best. I know spring break for Anoka Hennepin is March 10th through the 15th.
11th for me.
They both work for me.
Yeah, both of them work for me.
Both?
Either one.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll let the company know that either one works, and hopefully they can do one of them. Second of all, as mentioned in payment of claim flax system, they're working on permitting for installation. As they're working on that, they did give us access to any open cities that share their data, so we have the capability of getting other cities' data if need be.
When does that get implemented?
I'm assuming it'd probably be springtime, being they have to install poles.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Thank you. The city took possession of the Lent properties last week, so this is in the old village.
Say that again?
The EDA purchased property of the
Oh.
old village,
Yep.
otherwise known as the Lent properties.
Yep. Yeah.
No updates here.
Scott?
I'm good.
Sorry?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Nothing from me.
Devin?
Nothing from me.
All right, we will move on to council business, new business, item O.
I just need to confirm that we'll have the local board of appeals April 8th. Both counties really set this meeting date and time. And then we would just need one trained member along with a quorum at this meeting. And then I can get our new council, you have the ability to complete training by February in any given year to get you certified for, is it 3 years?
I was just gonna ask that.
Yeah.
I don't know if,
I'm curious.
I'll have to look at the list, but I'll send
you
out
might
an
wanna
email.
check who's still certified.
Yeah, I believe the 3 of you are.
Oh, okay.
So I'll send you guys an email just about that information and about that meeting. But that's essentially for residents to be able to come and argue their valuation that the county put on them. It gives the local board the authority to have a say in that.
Okay, and this is just when it is April 8th, you don't.
Yeah, we have publishing requirements. That's why I'm just confirming it in an open meeting that we're
Yep.
good with that date.
You want to hit time, or do you want to say 5:30 still?
30th, I think is, I mean,
We can reconvene it.
it seems like, yeah, sometimes we get nobody, and other times we get a number of people, so, yeah.
Okay.
Really depends on what the county does with the numbers. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, item P, Quilling concept review.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just real briefly, this is a concept plan. So with a concept plan, it's more intended to be a high-level discussion. There's no formal approval or denial of the project. We're looking for comments and recommendations from each of the council members. One council member can say they like one thing, and another council member can say they like the opposite. This project is located off of Lawndale Lane in northwest Dayton. Currently, it exists as a 20-acre parcel and a 15-acre parcel, so 2 different lots. The developer is proposing to move the property line to create a 20-acre parcel and a 30-acre parcel and a 5-acre parcel. There are a few issues with each one, or with the project. The critical issues, number 1, is that there's a variance that is required to reduce the minimum lot size from 40 acres to 5 acres. So this property is zoned A1 agricultural. Second variance is required to reduce the lot frontage from 300 feet to 60 feet. So 60 feet, I should say the code requires 300 feet of lot frontage on a public road, whereas this would be 60 feet currently on a private or on a public easement. Question on the use of the roadway easement, proposed mausoleum, as well as unpermitted construction. And I'll go through these in detail. With each one, there's a few questions that I'll have for the council. Let's see. So the first critical issue regarding the variance is to reduce the minimum lot size from 40 acres to 5 acres. So the existing property, once again, is 20 acres and then 15, and proposed would be 30 acres and 5 acres. So as mentioned before, the minimum lot size in the A1 district is 40 acres. The lot as it is currently is non-conforming, so a variance would be required to make it less non-conforming. As the council is aware, the council and the planning commission have discussed creating an A3 zoning district, in which case the minimum lot size would be less than 40 acres. And the planning commission is still discussing what that might be. Depending on how that turns out, it might be that this variance is not necessary, but right now it is. Second variance to reduce the minimum lot width along a public roadway from 300 feet to 60 feet. Currently, there's a public easement that's dedicated, which only serves one house now, but it actually serves two properties. What his staff is recommending to comply with the subdivision code would be to dedicate right-of-way for a cul-de-sac, and this then creates the 300 feet of lot width that's required by the code. So my first question is, should right-of-way be dedicated? If yes, variance to the lot width is not required. If no, then a variance is required.
This is another one, though, that might be changed by what happens with the A3 district.
Anything could change with the A3 district, that's true.
Right now, I'm not inclined to open up these variances or approve these variances only because we have this coming. I mean, we don't know what
the A3, we don't know
what the A3 is going to do to it. And aside from that, I mean, in the past, we haven't, the answer to grant a variance to go below the 40, the only time we've ever done that I remember is when there was a reason to have that as an outlot, the remaining part as an outlot. It wasn't a buildable site.
Sure.
But to approve a variance that creates two buildable sites below the 40 to me is a non-starter.
I agree. If we open up that can of worms, then we got to open it up for everybody.
Yeah.
I have another question on here.
Good.
Originally, this is a 45.81 acre, the three parcels.
3 parcels, yes.
How does it, proposing to change this thing, make it grow? Because then it's 46.22.
Okay, I'm rounding numbers, so I'm just going to go whole numbers. But
Rounding there.
so the third
So that's a
parcel,
typo.
the third parcel it is owned by Quilling. It is not part of the project. So I'm describing the staff report that it feels like it's all connected, but
Yeah.
the project itself only involves the 2 south properties.
Okay. I'm not also a fan of the shared easement. I don't, it's a situation we're waiting for a bad outcome. Somehow or another, I would try to get rid of that, take that easement off of one property and just put it all on one person.
That's coming up, right? That discussion. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to the next.
John, do you have good enough information for your question?
I'm
Just wanna make
saying
sure
with
you
two
have-
opinions, there's not a consensus, but and that's fine.
I just want to make sure you have clear direction. That's
Okay.
Well, do you? I mean, do you guys want to? You didn't like the variances either?
I'm not a fan of it, just because it's going to open up a can of worms for the whole city.
Okay.
Well,
Until the A3 thing, if it does come into play.
Yeah.
And I've been told other people have requested this and been denied, and so
That's exactly right.
it seems wildly unfair. And that we have rules for a reason. And we know other people have requested this, and they have been denied, which is why we are pursuing the A3 district in the first place. To work out all these things in advance, so it's not they're just the rules that everyone follows, and not a project-by-project decision.
And I am not opposed to smaller lots. I'm all for them. To me, we need to get rid of the 40-acre thing, but
we need a rule
until
for
we
it.
do that.
Yes. That's where I'm at.
Yep.
We need solid rules that apply to everybody.
Okay, sounds like you're good there.
Okay, so related to that, for the roadway easement, so as mentioned, there is an existing 60-foot wide roadway easement. And this relates to the last question of if the developer dedicates right-of-way to build a street, the city would maintain that street. The other options for the developer to dedicate roadway, or to dedicate roadway but not build a street, and they would rebuild the private driveway in which the adjacent property owners would have the rights to use. So the question here is, if right-of-way is dedicated, should a street be constructed or just a driveway?
And that assumes the city maintains, right? You're talking about number one, or?
Yes, so whether or not right-of-way is dedicated, I guess I should say it's still going to be right-of-way. If a street is built, the city would maintain that street. It would be used by two properties. I guess staff's recommendation is that we would require right-of-way to be dedicated, but just have a driveway that's built. So much like what's there now.
So where would that, for the developer to dedicate right away, where exactly is that right away?
So that would be this yellow portion. So the north half of, I'm going to say 30 feet along the current easement, and then the
Yep.
full cul-de-sac. So it's actually half the right-of-way that would be required. So part of this easement is on the adjacent property, which is not part of the project. So we cannot require right-of-way dedication off-site.
And this would replace the current easement agreement?
Half of it. So the easement would now become right-of-way. So it has different legal meaning, it functions the same.
But it'd be on the same footprint as
Correct.
the north half of the easement.
Correct.
So when we have an easement, to make it, I think I'm hung up on this. Is the process that it becomes right away in order to put a road on it, or do we not have roads on? My understanding was we did have roads that run.
We do.
Why would, okay.
I mean, that can happen, yeah.
I'm going to lean on Jason. I mean, I want to think, we have many parcels that are not platted where you're going to have roadway easement.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
To me, there's currently, right now, today, there's no benefit to have that as a street.
as a built street, you mean?
Yeah, I don't.
Right.
I mean, we're only
In my
talking
opinion,
about-
you leave it the way it is. However, that shared easement, to me, is an issue.
Well,
I mean, if you're gonna share a driveway, why won't you share with your family? Because there is, like, their relative, I mean, my understanding is it's his daughter who lives on that one property that they want to split off, already has a driveway right there
Yep.
bordering the easement. Share that driveway and leave your neighbors alone would be my take on that.
It might solve all this, but, and I'll just say, I don't see any good reason for us to turn this into any kind of a city street. I think its only purpose was to provide access for the Duke residents that exists there today, and the property to the north, and I'm not sure what their interest in this ever was, but they're part of it, and so it's a shared access point. It doesn't lead anywhere. Even if this project were to succeed, it goes to one more place. So I don't that doesn't meet the threshold for me for us taking it on as a public roadway and building it like a public roadway. I think it's a driveway, and it should be.
I mean, it is a driveway, but they have a lot of parking areas called out in their plan, which to me indicates if you have that much parking, you're gonna have a lot more traffic.
Yeah,
And
I
that,
have a lot of other concerns
Yeah.
about this project. I'm just talking about the easement piece.
But, yeah, but I think that to me, that's, when you say, is this a street, does it really, like, to me, it's, like, there's a certain amount of traffic you'd expect in a driveway, and it looks like it's heading to more traffic than you would expect in a basic driveway, which adds complications to the easement, right? It's one thing if you and your neighbors are both using the driveway equivalently, but if one neighbor is using this driveway significantly more, with significantly more vehicles, more traffic, then that also makes the easement very complicated, like you're not sharing it equally, right? So that also is why I'm not in favor of it, I guess, is the sheer amount of use it looks like it'll be getting from this other property with all their driveways and parking spaces.
And a cul-de-sac at the end of it just creates more traffic for the home that's right there.
go ahead.
Can I ask a question, just because it's maybe out of ignorance, like lack of knowledge? So I guess I'm looking like into the future, like with the mausoleum there. Let's just say, down the road, they have family that they've laid to rest there, and then they end up moving. If you use the easement now as like a shared driveway, does that set it up later on to become a public road because you would then continue to want to see your loved one? So then, like down the road, potentially, this is like a hypothetical, but would that not set up that easement to become a public road to give access eventually? So what's now a driveway would be set up later on to be an actual more traffic public road. Does that make sense what my question is?
I'm guessing the easement would have to be altered.
Yeah, based on my understanding of the easement, it'd have to be altered to make it a right-of-way, which would be essentially a roadway, no different than in front of this building, versus an easement that it sits today. That would be my understanding for that.
This thing's a mess.
Just to summarize on these two questions, there is no consensus to require right-of-way, to wait to see what happens with the A3 district, and the consensus is do not build a public street.
I think it's kind of moot, given the first two variances, we kind of indicated no to, but it will probably pop up again if this A3 works out for them. I mean, like what Scott said, we want, some of these larger lots to come in here. The problem is this easement brings forth a whole bunch of ugliness. And I'm not sure, at some point we'll probably have to deal with it. I would much rather a different solution, because I think this one might be headed for a dead end, but I don't know. And my understanding was this easement was a goofy one anyways. How it was written, how it was implemented, and were there questions about a further, I know it sounded like there was a private easement to continue this thing. Is that?
I don't know anything about that. So just real briefly, and there's a whole lot of history on it, but just to summarize, it's my understanding that the Duke's properties are on the south side. It's my understanding that this was subdivided in the 1970s by Hennepin County when the Dukes had proposed to build a second house on the western parcel. There was some dispute of whether that existed as a separate lot or not. Whatever that dispute was, it's a separate lot today.
Right.
So as part of that process, when the house was built in 2004, the Dukes and the previous owners, the Bennett's, did both dedicate 30 feet each for a total of 60 feet width in roadway easement to the city. So this is for the city's use or the public's use. But in practice, it's really only accessible by the Dukes. They're the only ones that have a house on that easement.
But the second drawing in here shows an easement continuing to the back property. I'm guessing it's a private easement because it's not on the map.
You're talking about the cross-access agreement.
I don't believe there's a current easement, or at least not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, regardless, it looked to me like it was private either way. It was just an agreement between the two properties, which leaves us out of it.
Yep.
So
you're referring to this, that crosses.
Yep.
You the one? No, not that guy. The dotted line easement. A little bit north. There you go, right there. Yep. Wherever Jason showed you.
Yeah, there is not an easement that I'm aware of. It just crosses from one property to the other. They're both the same family.
Okay, just above your mouse there.
Here?
Yes, that thing. What is that?
I can't read that.
Okay, I thought it said utility and something easement. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are we to the point where
It says utility and access easement per document number 107-50757.
It's got to be a private easement across because we don't have any record of it.
Yep, that's what I thought. So that's why I was confused.
It could have been set up years ago. And man, this might be way predecessor to all of us, is that likely there was two different owners at one time, and then if there was multiple owners, and they'd have an access agreement because that back parcel technically had no access to any city street or ability to get to any other parcel, so they had to have some sort of private access across there.
Okay.
Again, nothing by the city, we don't own anything there.
Okay. Anybody else have any more questions for John?
I have questions for the council.
Oh, that's right, go ahead.
So part of this, the site plan does include a mausoleum, so a mausoleum would require a conditional use permit. Staff's recommendation is that the mausoleum should either be included in an easement or an outlot, as well as an access easement provided between the public roadway and the mausoleum. So that way, as Stephanie pointed out, no matter who owns this property, years from now, the family would still have access to it.
Did you look at the state statute for?
It's long.
Yep,
So-
but I was under the impression you can have on your property.
That is my
Cemetery.
impression too, but I don't know that legislation, that those laws in great detail.
Okay.
There's a lot to it.
It almost seems like creating an outlet almost adds to your mess, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, but if that's going to be part of the project, I think that has to be
Wrung out.
rung out,
Yeah.
because as you said, what happened, I know it's the family's intent to be there as long as the mausoleum is, but, that things change, and what happens then, and so I think that has to be talked about, and, an outlot or whatever, and access to it has to be part of the final picture.
Okay. I'm not sure what we do with this. I guess we wait until we get some understanding what the state statutes are.
Yep.
I just, to me, I don't know. It seems to complicate things, and it may not need to complicate things.
Yeah, so overall, the intent is to move a property line, but how to get from point A to point B is complicated for this project. I'll add that, last item. During the Planning Commission public hearings, it was noted that there was work done without permits. The building inspector did go out and looked at that, I believe it was last week. So yes, there is some work that was done without a permit. Permits have been applied for, and it's going through that process. Also, the Quillings do have commercial vehicles that are parked on the property where they are not allowed, so those vehicles need to be removed. So just for clarity, to have commercial vehicles on a residential property does require an interim use permit for a home extended business, and I don't believe that is the Quillings' intent. So what they've told me is that the vehicles that are there are temporary. They're intended to be moved back to their commercial location in Brooklyn Park.
It did seem odd, though, there's pavement there, right?
Yeah.
So it
There is
did
pavement.
seem
Yeah.
odd that you'd spend that much money on pavement for something that was going to be very temporary. But, I mean, I guess we don't know where that was going. So.
When you've clearly already made a roadway without having to go onto the easement of your neighbors to get back there, because you're already doing it and you already paved it.
I'll add after the packet was put out, we did receive a revised site plan from the applicant, as well as a letter from the applicant and a letter from the neighbors.
Did you
So,
see any differences?
I did.
Did
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There was quite a few.
Yes. So the updated site plan does include the paved areas as it is today. So I believe the earlier site plan was probably a year old, and I think was done before the driveway was extended. There's also some trees that have been removed from the project.
Anything else?
Nope, that's all I have.
Do you want to come up and answer any questions, or do we have any questions for the developer? Guess if we don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, name and address.
Joe Raddick with Contour Civil, 8195 Vernon Street, Rockford. Just a couple points of context. So we are proposing to move the lot line. We're not proposing to create any new lots. So I just wanted it to be clear that we're not asking to get another buildable lot here. We're just asking to adjust property lines. So it's 2 lots today. It's going to be 2 lots tomorrow, 2 building rights nothing would change in that context, so just so we're aware.
Yep, that is true, but it does make that less.
The lot size becomes more non-conforming.
More non-conforming.
Understood. I just wanted everybody to be clear that we're not
Yep.
asking for additional entitlements here. The other item I just wanted to bring up is that the private easement, Mr. Fisher, that you were speaking about, there is a private easement, and my understanding is when the Quillings bought the 20-acre parcel, they needed that easement to provide legal access to that parcel, because you can't sell property without legal access. So currently, the legal access to that parcel is through the city's easement. That's half on the Duke property, half on the previous Bennett property, and then through that new 60-foot easement that was granted at the time of purchase of that land. So whether or not the lot line's moved or whatever, he's going to apply for a building permit, and that's the access to his property.
So when he bought that back, is it 20?
20 acres, correct?
That back 20, you're saying it was landlocked?
Correct.
And so he already owned the front stuff, yep.
It was under different ownership. So
Oh, it was?
the Quilling family, Jason and Tina own the north 10-acre piece. And
Okay.
then
So you're saying,
QQ Farm, or QT Farm owned the 15-acre piece, and then this was bought in another entity. And so at that time, in order to make that marketable, there needed to be easement access for that parcel.
I'm a little confused. So you're saying his business, the farm business owned the front property, not him?
No, him and his wife own the north property.
Okay.
And then when they purchased the 15-acre property, that was purchased in another entity. And then when they purchased the farm, or the 20-acre parcel, that was a separate entity as well. And I'm not so sure that that parcel could have existed without legal access. It's at least that's.
It can exist, it can't be built on
It can't
without
be built
legal
on.
access.
Right. So now the legal access, as we understand it, is through the 60-foot city easement, public easement, and then through the 60-foot private easement over the 15-acre parcel.
And who required the private easement? The state?
The city would require it in order to build anything on the landlocked parcel.
I understand that, but it wasn't.
But we haven't done that yet.
Right, so
We
it
haven't
was
issued a
just,
building permit, correct?
so there was a purchase that went through, and
Yes.
I'm hearing somebody required an easement, a private easement. Would that have been, do you know who that was?
I don't. I know
Might have
that
been
at the
the-
time that it was purchased in 2020, the easement was recorded at that time. But I don't know.
Recorded on the deed?
Correct, over the 15-acre parcel.
Yeah, we
In
don't
favor of the
It
20.
might
see
have been
those.
a lender or,
That just goes to the county, right?
Or the
That's not-
county may have required it too, because I don't think you can sell landlocked property
I have no idea.
without legal access.
The county may have required it, 2020,
Right.
it could have been county requirement. It was not a city requirement, we have no record of it, so.
Well, one way or another, it's a private easement, so I'm not too worried about that one.
My point is the private easement provides access to the public easement, which provides access to the 20-acre parcel. That's the legal access to that parcel.
Well, if the easement, all right.
However-
this is getting
however,
messy. If this easement, the public easement, or the easement that we have there, that we're a party to, that's just those three parties, right? So if this 20-acre piece is gonna start using that easement, does that require a change to the easement?
no,
Okay.
No.
our easement doesn't change.
'Cause
Why
it's
not?
Somebody
public-
else
it's
can
public.
use it.
Anyone can use it. You, me,
Okay.
anyone.
Well, wait a minute. I have easements all over my property and nobody can just drive on them.
You have sewer and water utility easements, right?
I have a road easement.
Sorry. You have a road easement.
Goes right behind all of our houses. It's grass. You're saying anybody could just drive on
If
those
it's a
things?
city roadway easement, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe.
If it's a drainage utility easement, that's totally different.
No, this is a road easement. It's back there. I don't know. We'll have to look at that because I thought I got clarity that until it was determined to be a road, unless the city decided to turn it into a road, it was basically off limits.
Oh.
Whatever, we can talk about that later, but it just adds a little bit more confusion to Scott, you had something?
Yeah, I have something. On page 94, we got a map there that it shows the so-called imaginary road that goes all the way back to the back of the property, all the way back to the mausoleum area. That line on that map doesn't necessarily need to, you're saying it has to have that the city road easement. It doesn't have to have it because there's enough room on the south edge of the proposed 5-acre lot to put that road all the way back there.
Yeah, if they retain ownership of that 15-acre parcel in perpetuity. But, you know, if they were to sell that parcel at some point, I'm not saying that's part of the plan, but if they were, then the access would be literally right through somebody else's courtyard.
Well, I went and looked
So
at this.
it's logically, like, when I look at this, like, regardless of all this other stuff that's going on, like, the legal access kind of makes sense to me that it would go to the roadway easement versus through somebody's front yard or courtyard or whatever you want to call it.
Well, it's not a courtyard. I mean, I went and looked at the whole thing. There's plenty of room to move that easement to the north, just 30 feet. There's plenty of room there, so that you didn't infringe on the city easement already. Based on the way this thing is going to be drawn, you're asking for a street that goes all the way back to the mausoleum area. So to me, you're infringing on that property, that house that's right there, right about 75 feet off of this easement.
The easement was created for the benefit of the 15-acre parcel and the Duke parcels. That's who granted the easement. So now we're saying that benefit is no longer for the 15-acre parcel, it's just for the 2-acre parcel. And I'm not so sure that's fair either.
I don't think we're going to get anywhere on this whole thing anyway. So to me, all of this is mute.
Well, and to that point, this is a concept plan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's no
There's no
formal
vote.
action that's required.
But our understanding is that if the concept plan or the lot line adjustment gets denied, that we can still apply for a building permit, build the house, and use the easement. That's what our attorney is advising us, that we have the right to do that. And that's our intention. The reorganization of the land is kind of a wish, but the ultimate goal, and I believe Jason may have already submitted his building permit.
Yes.
Yeah. So the initial plan is to build the house through the access that's there legally today. And then if we can reorganize things.
Building permit on the back 20?
Yes.
Correct.
Well, he doesn't have the road frontage.
No, but it's an existing lot of record. So just, it's a landlocked parcel. It does require proof of access, which they have.
So lots of record don't have to comply with current statutes
As long as
all
they
around
meet
that.
with building setbacks.
Yep.
Yeah, they
Oh,
do
wait a
not
minute.
need.
So they have to comply with building setbacks. Why is that?
Well, so if you build on any property, you'd have to meet building setbacks from the property lines.
And why would you not have to meet road frontage?
Because it's an existing lot of record. So it exists today, we can't change it, or we can't require it to be changed.
Okay.
Through the subdivision process, we can require it.
I think your question, Mayor, is that how can we allow a
What
building?
rules can be?
Why can we do this, but we can't do before? So
Yeah.
if we were to retract all the way back to the beginning, I would suggest that this law was never created because it doesn't meet road frontage. During the planning process or during the process of creating a lot, that's where the road frontage is needed, because then once it becomes a lot of record, then one building permit is allowed on that lot of record.
Okay.
And so because normally during the planning process, we require each lot to meet that road frontage, this is no longer needed because it's already a lot of record and it's already been created. It just has to have access now, and that access is through that private easement that I was not aware of.
Sure, yeah,
Until
this
the
is why
meetings.
we have a minimum lot size of 40 acres,
Yes.
is to prevent things like this from happening.
Yeah. One lot of record is allowed to have a building permit, and it doesn't become a lot of record unless it meets road frontage or it's been there forever.
So
for
that
whatever
question
reason.
is asked before the lot is created.
That's correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Is
Go ahead.
the new house that's being proposed, is that for an additional family member?
No, it's for Jason and his wife.
Okay.
Can I ask another question?
Yep, good.
If we like rewind a little bit, and there was discussion about moving the easement, like, does that then mean?
Scott was asking about that.
Yes. I'm just wondering, like, what is that, can you say more? Like, what does that entail? Does that give the current easement, who retains possession, if you will, of the current easement then if you move it? Or is it just like the land that it covers now? You know what I'm trying to ask?
So the city would retain the existing 60-foot wide roadway easement.
Okay.
And then there would be an additional 30-foot easement, or whatever that width is, adjacent to it, that would be a private driveway to service this back property over here.
The new build.
Yes. So if we kept going with 30s, this is going to be a very large easement.
So you maintain that right now, if they put a building on that back 20, they have a legal right to use that easement.
That's what we've been advised, yes.
And Amy has looked at this?
Yep.
And she says the same thing?
It's a public road, yeah, essentially. That's how it's written.
And is 30 feet enough for a road?
It's 60.
Both, yeah, the shared, yeah, it's split, yeah. But however, you're at the end of that easement, technically you only have 30 feet. Because
30 on each property.
Yep. However, at that property line, the easement stops. The full 60-foot easement, when it gets to the Quilling's property, the easement stops.
The public easement, yes.
Correct.
Doesn't that then just become a private driveway?
Yeah, that's a private.
Nope.
Yeah, then it's not right.
Then it's a 60-foot private easement west of that point.
So right off of that stem, you can build your driveway. However, okay.
That's our understanding.
Yep.
Well, in fact, the easement goes further that the maintenance of the driveway would be shared mutually between the benefited parties, being the Dukes and the Bennetts, now the Quillings. And Jason's willing to pay whatever cost there is to improve that driveway if it's needed. If not, it can just stay as is, but that's what the easement states. So the city has no maintenance responsibilities. It's between the private owners' 50-50 share of improvements.
And that's where I get a little, because based on the site plan, the Quilling property is going to be using that driveway significantly more than their neighbors. I mean, they have 3 different parking spaces, like large spaces for parking that are bigger than my house. If you weren't planning to have a lot of vehicles back there, why would you need all those parking spaces?
I can't answer that.
I mean, no one wastes the money paving parking spaces unless they anticipate using those parking spaces, and vehicles are what use parking spaces.
Certainly. I don't think the easement talks about use. It's just there's 2 benefited properties, and sometimes.
Here's the hang-up on that easement, though, is if you want to blacktop it and they don't.
Then what?
Then what? Who's going to maintain it?
Yeah, it talks about 50-50 share. The Quillings are more than willing to pay for whatever costs.
100%.
100%, yeah.
And we would also have to agree to the blacktop since we're a third party of the easement, or what?
It's driveway permit, so the driveway would have to be built to city standards for driveways.
Plus, there's a gas line under the north side of that easement.
So the short answer is yes.
We are the grantor.
Yep.
We received the grant. We'd be the grantee.
Grantor.
Grantee. Grantee, yeah, I get confused
Yep,
on that
yep.
one all the time, but we have received the grant, so as the easement, so we would be the ones that would request what would need to be done on the
So
property.
normally we require driveways to be paved, which I don't approve of, but on ag though we don't, is that correct?
Correct.
That is correct.
So, Okay, so, all right.
I can read you what the easement says. I have it here. It
Yeah, it's
says,
like up to a
"Improvement may
5 ton or
include,
something."
but not limited to, expansion of the roadway to 12-foot wide bituminous surface with 5-ton standard consisting of 2-foot gravel shoulders and necessary grading for drainage." So that's what was agreed to at the time of the easement.
Yeah, the city could request that.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and this buffering all these trees along that easement is, given that that's in his concept plan, are they planning on doing that?
Along
So,
the existing roadway.
Along the
easement.
existing easement? That, yeah, good.
Yeah, we'd like to. We would work collaboratively with the Dukes. I mean, we don't technically
Alright.
have the right to plant there, but if the city was okay with it and the Dukes were, we would.
Well, then if they have a right to this stuff, and Amy agrees they have a right to this stuff, it
There's
seems like I'm not sure what we're here for
It's the
at this point.
oddest easement agreement I've ever seen in my life, and
It
it's
is.
very weird. But yeah, it's essentially, the easement is shared between the two owners.
Yeah.
And essentially the grantor or the grantee who's received the grant is us, and that's it.
And the ask today is to adjust the property line. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like there's much support there.
Yep.
So until maybe the zoning changes, we're kind of stuck with
Yeah,
what we
I
have.
think it's, for myself as well, I think we're trying to work on something that's more usable for people in this A3 zone. And, to do this in advance of something that's, would quite likely affect this, it seems unnecessary to grant a variance to it at this point when it may not be needed once this is done. Or if it doesn't fit the new A3 definition, then it's still, I guess, a variance request, but it's not compliant then either.
Well, and one of the things we want to tackle is this very question about driveways and how do you share driveways when you're taking 40-acre lots and splitting them up. And so this is something we have to wrestle with. Not that it will necessarily change this, but I think this is something we have to keep when we do have those conversations. This issue and all of the headaches it has caused, we have to make sure that we don't let this happen again.
Any more questions for the developer? Did you guys want to come up and speak? Yeah. Name and address?
Just try your best to stay in front of the mic so we can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? All right. My name's Jonna Duke. I reside at 14661 Lawndale Lane, Dayton, Minnesota.
And I'm Jason Duke, same address, 14661 Lawndale Lane.
We just want to take a moment here to just kind of state our position. Mostly, I'd like to really just help you guys understand the cumulative effect that this is having on us and our life. First of all, I'd just like to emphasize that the subdivision, I'm really impressed with the amount of detail that you guys have gone through and your ability to, or decisions to just kind of pause and wait for more information, more decisions, instead of granting a variance. I've lived here for 15 years, and how long have you lived here?
45, 44-ish.
Yep, Jason grew up in the lot that his father-in-law owns just in front of us. It was always two separate lots. Jason purchased that west lot when in 2004 to build our home. At that time, the city did instruct us to create that easement. The easement was simply created between the Bennetts and the Dukes because we needed the Bennett's property for grading. So that's the only reason two properties, or two different families got involved. After that, we built the road, we've maintained the roads. The Bennetts had never had any activity on the road. Being that was always supposed to be a farmland lot until 2040, this kind of adjustments to what's going on here was never expected for us to be dealing with, and especially at this time frame. The biggest concern I also have is that Jason Quilling is the owner of QT Construction and Roofing, QT Commercial Management. He has representation here, and we've received letters from the lawyer. When somebody has those types of resources, I really find it difficult to understand why permits are not being pulled, things are being done out of order, and the encroachment that we have to deal with as a result of that. I respectfully ask that the council consider whether the Quilling's existing road could serve their needs rather than imposing additional traffic on us, and that any costs associated with those roads, if we decide to, if you guys move forward with use of the easement, that the upgrades and the cost of those reflect Quilling, because he's the benefit of that, not us. Something else that's happening that I wanted to bring your attention to is the lighting. I'm not aware that Dayton has any type of lighting ordinances, but again, this unique situation is proving things that are happening. A pole barn was built pretty much directly behind our home. It has lighting all the way around it, and it is a white pole barn. The lighting is on from sunset to sunrise. It affects 3 bedrooms in my home, and I have already reached out to the property owners and asked for them to please turn it off during non-use hours, to which I have not gotten a different result. It's also bright white lighting, which is something that I asked you to consider and think about if you do write a lighting ordinance. The use of warm light would significantly change things. Requirement that the lighting is shielded, and then also just asking that timers be placed on these things so that it doesn't become such a burden. The other thing that I want to bring up is that there's just been numerous developments on the Quilling property that it appears that there was no permits pulled. Installation of that gas line within the very center line of the easement, reportedly without a permit, a construction of water connections without obvious sewer tie-ins, and then the storage of these commercial vehicles, which the city had already previously told him in 2023 to have them removed. Given Mr. Quilling's expertise in construction and his resources to have such representation here, and his experience as a developer, these actions create the perception that these violations are treated as a cost of doing business. And this is deeply concerning for the residents like me, who really rely on the city to ensure that fairness and adherence to the ordinances. The constant construction activity, the noise, and the traffic has taken a significant toll on my family. The legal and financial pressures we were faced during the holidays to be able to respond to this, and the unnecessary stress has detracted from our sense of belonging to this community. Dayton has always felt like a place where my neighbors could work together, and I hope we can turn to that spirit of cooperation and respect. I kindly ask the council to defer any decisions on this property until all facts are reviewed thoroughly. I also urge the city to adopt a more proactive approach to monitoring compliance, ensuring that all residents can enjoy Dayton's rural character without the undue stress or burden. I thank you deeply for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions or provide further details. Do you have anything else?
I don't think so. I guess the only thing I asked to, which I've reported to the city a few times, there's a dumpster back there with all them commercials. Or commercial vehicles. I haven't seen anything about dumpsters, but I know there is the city does have an ordinance on dumpsters, how long they can be on property. So I'd like to add that. Well, I guess also the road. The road, when I built the house, the road was placed on the easement center line. Bennett's had 30 feet, I had 30 feet. The road stayed completely on my side. So if, and then this gas line was put directly like 3 foot off the side of my driveway now. If it is the council's recommendation that this is used, I'd like the road, it needs to be moved.
Back to the center line.
Back to the center line. And it might mean a gas line being redone. So I don't.
If the city technically owns that easement, how could a gas line be put in without our permission or knowledge?
It should have both.
And did it?
No.
There's sprinklers as well, too. The whole sprinkler system got installed in that easement as well.
Oh, without
Yeah,
the
well,
easement?
trees have been planted. Yeah, there's been a lot on that side.
This is the burden that we're facing, is that there just seems to be this, here's the line, we're going to step just over it, and it pushes more of the burden onto us. And we're so small. I mean, this man has so many more resources to understand how to navigate this. And you're all volunteers, and some are very newly elected. We don't even probably have a lot of the experience to navigate this. So I just hope we pause and really deeply look at how this man is collectively impacting Dayton. And also just note that he's got violations on his own property for building on wetlands and other things that makes me really want you guys to caution and deeply look into what's right and what's not right. And I'm sorry to keep talking, that's all.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Well,
I have
are
what I
we
need.
done? Huh?
I have what I need.
Okay.
Any other comments from the mayor or council?
What are the consequences for doing things on an easement that they had no permission for?
So it's common for private utilities to be on public easement. So water sprinklers or lawn sprinklers is a good example. It's common where you have private utilities that will cross, we'll say the shortest point to get from, say a gas main in the street to the house. It's just that the house or this barn is quite a bit away from the street. So I think we would look at this as far as what is the most practical point from our interest as being a public easement or having a public easement, or where that gas line would have gone. It might have been the same place where it was put, or it might have been along the north edge.
Like, are there consequences, I guess is my point? Other than, oh, please don't do that again.
Well, it'd be to remove it and move it. So if,
At whose cost?
Oh,
yes.
certainly his cost.
Not the city's cost.
Not the city's. I mean, he has technically no legal right to put it there, right?
I'd have to refer to our attorney on that. I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
I
I
mean,
don't
technically,
know.
it's a permitted issue.
I think what it, at least my understanding is the general answer is if you put it there, just if it's in the way at some point, it may be removed.
Right.
But I don't know that there's, I mean, we have,
If you want the question answered, what I'm happy to do, I'd prefer to our city attorney.
Well, I don't think we're going anywhere right now, so.
okay, well, let's move on.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go to.
I got it. Okay, we're good.
Item Q.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of council. I have provided the suggested 2025 fee schedule in the council packet. I did not have time, unfortunately, to put anything together on this PowerPoint, so I have nothing for you to show today, but I'm here to stand for any questions you may have, if you have any. I did change our format of a lot of things to make it from a Word document to Excel to make it easier to adjust, make the lines a little more clear, make it a little easier to read, but our suggestion is sometime, we went pretty heavily through this fee schedule this year to really go, are we really charging for those things?
Mhm.
And if we really aren't, we should probably just remove them.
Yep.
Because we're not going to charge $1 for a notary. It's just not going to happen. It's been on there forever, and we've never charged one. And
So any deltas here, just minor?
Yes, minor changes. I mean, again, we went through and kind of adjusted, okay, are we, essentially the main idea for for staff's levels, we don't want to lose money on this deal. If there's anything that we have to do as a fee or as a process, our main thing is, are we covering our fees and our time and our costs to do those, that we could be doing something else that would be good for the greater good of the public versus that one person's issue or fee or concern.
So is that kind of the explanation then for in that section 1 administrative fees, why those are all just scratched because we weren't charging them anyway?
We have never, if somebody comes in here and asks me for one black and white copy, I'm not going to charge them 50 cents for an oversize and staff time. I'm just going to take a copy of it and say, you have a great day. Because it doesn't take our time to charge 50 cents and then, okay, I charge you $3 for my time and call it a day.
And then they use a credit card and they have to pay at least $1.95 fee
You got it.
for their 50-cent copy.
So again, our idea is that if it's normal in business to come and help somebody and be, our idea is to be customer aware and customer service oriented. I'm not going to start printing off hundreds of copies. We're not at Kinko's here, but if someone needs a copy of something or needs to request a copy of something that's on their property, we're not going to charge them for that. But that's the idea.
So there's some pretty significant increases around liquor licenses?
Yep.
Do we have justification for that in terms of enforcement or compliance costs, or what's driving that change? Because it's more than the sort of
It goes with
inflation kind of
population
adjustment.
growth and what's allowed by state statute, and just surrounding communities, and there is time and effort that goes into those, and compliance that is conducted.
Yeah, we are now doing our own compliance checks,
Mhm.
and We were not doing those before, so that was part of our cost now that we have to make sure we cover. Again, it's also related, population is based on that as well, and then also surrounding cities of what they're charging. We are not trying to match a Rogers or a Champlin by any means, but the idea is that there is a service that is provided to an on-sale place. We typically will have, may have additional calls for those, or maybe additional information related to public safety for those places, which is this most significant increase in cost. Otherwise, we're seeing a lot more different types of, what do you want to call it, alcohol type places, and to try to be on the forefront of things, we're trying to add those, like the brew pub and the brewer. I can tell you what, I'm going to refer to Amy if I have any questions about those things, but it's based on if it's brewed there or not brewed there or sold, and we kind of used Rogers' ideas and fluctuations as our guide. The cannabis one has to be reduced based on state statute. So we were following and just used the recommendation of following the liquor license based on what we had today. And appreciate Hayden putting together some information, but our max that we can charge is $500.
Did the state give a reason for why they limited to that?
That is what is in state statute, so
Okay.
it's some language about half the fee of what you can charge, and then it's or $500, and I don't know why they did the half the fee, because it's whatever's less, so I would just say why they didn't just say $500, I'm not sure, so. They use some other language for half the fee, and I'm like,
Okay.
$500. But that's, the $4,000, the biggest increase is the on sale. I think we have one, maybe two. I think it's Sundance and the bar. I think are only two that we have in town, so it's not a ton of them that are affected by that change.
I'm a little taken back by the amount of some of these increases. I mean, 25 to 100% increase.
On which one, the liquor license, or which one?
If you look, most of the liquor ones are way up. And I don't mind the brew pub thing, that's just if something ever happens.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have it here, so. I mean, if you have a brew pub and you can pay a $300 license, that's not that big a deal, probably. The one that really took me back, and I don't know if this is a slap in the face for past performance or what, but a fireworks license went 10 times from $100 to $1,000. Clearly, we don't want to have fireworks in this city ever again.
Sure. I'm gonna refer to Chief Henderson on that.
Mayor, members of the council, the increase of fees, and Zach and I talked about this, try to be all-inclusive. So it's a one-set fee as opposed to charging for staff time and everything else outside of that. So this includes staff time as well as vehicles in that capacity. So Zach and I talked about having one inclusive fee instead of various levels of we charge for staff, we charge for vehicles, and so forth.
So what you're saying is this actually is what was being not, if you put everything together and package it, it's not that much higher, or?
No, it's correct. It's inclusive of an engine and staff and all that together versus what it would be if it was separate.
Okay.
A la carte, if you will.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, but previously you weren't charging for staff time, right? It didn't include all of those?
So
The $100 fee wasn't including the time you were paying the firemen to be there?
correct, no, it was just the fee to go out and conduct the survey. And then most often what we find is that we're asked to, I guess, donate our time, or because it's a nonprofit, I guess, often. So then there isn't a charge back to the nonprofit for that. So like this last summer, we had a couple of those.
We ate the cost. I mean, it's with all other functions, we eat the cost of public safety. And this will
This'll kill
uneat
it.
it, and this will kill it.
Okay.
Yep, so if we decided we don't want fireworks, we're good.
Though, someone could still request to not have to pay the permit, correct? A nonprofit, for example?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, you can still ask.
You could, yeah. Yep.
Or to reduce it, maybe not.
Yeah, you could.
Does the council have a suggestion for a fireworks permit? If it's the $1,000 is the killer?
It wouldn't surprise me a bit if it killed it, but
I think that it's likely to, and I don't know that we need to, essentially if we're creating an artificial ban, then let's just create a ban. But I think that the fee accomplishes that. And I understand there is cost with it, with people and equipment and so on, that, in my head is kind of already in the budget, but these are extra events. We have a couple of them a year.
I think
I don't know what a reasonable fee is. I think,
to me it would be akin to
500 still sounds like a lot to me.
to taking the large assembly ordinance and making that a grand also, because, you may have to have city staff help. So.
Sure.
Can I ask another question? To Gary? On average, this may not be able to answer, but how many firemen do you send when someone has a fireworks permit?
Yeah, so we send 6 typically.
And an engine?
Yep, and an engine. So we'll send actually 4 on a engine, usually myself or chief officer, and then 2 on a rescue. And part of that is depending upon the geographic location. So we'll use over the summer at Magnus, thank you. At Magnus, their geographic location needed an off-road vehicle, get down to closer to the lake for that, and then we staged the larger piece of apparatus off of North Diamond, so we have accessibility and water if needed.
Time-wise, how long? I know they're probably not all exactly the same. I'm just trying to quantify, like, is $1,000, does it cover the time, or is that a lot more? I guess in my own mind, I'm trying to walk myself through it.
Yeah, typically we will allow for, we arrive probably before dusk so that we can, inspect the site with the licensed contractor that's shooting the fireworks off. That doesn't mean that all of us need to respond at the same time. However, it gives us the ability to get in place where we need to be at that time. And then we're scattered out to protect those that are coming to not come into that area. So like L.C. Stevens Park last year, or 2 years ago, excuse me, whatever it was, that we had some challenges in that capacity because of accessibility, because you could come through the tunnel underneath Dayton Parkway, and so to make sure that everyone is safe at the end of the day. So I would say probably it's about 2 to 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours at max for staff time.
I don't disagree with the assessment of the value. I understand what you're saying. I just think that to have $1,000 permit, you're going to kill you'll never have fireworks.
And I think that's what I'm suggesting, is do you have a suggested number that you're willing to go with? I will say that, anything higher than $100 is going to be better off than we're at today, so that's, our suggested $1,000 should cover most of the costs. Again, it doesn't cover everything, but it's most of the costs, if not everything.
If Magnus comes in here for fireworks, and we tell him, yeah, you can do them, but it's $1,000, he's going to say, skip it.
Or he'll ask to not have to pay it.
Correct. So we're going to come back to this same whole thing again. I mean, why even have it here if we're going to say, well, if we waive the fee?
Which is why I'm suggesting just like a different number.
So, 5 firemen, 1 chief. Sorry, Gary, we're going to assume that that's part of your normal salary duties. But 5 firemen for 3 hours, $30, is that $450? Is my math right, David? For staff time?
Yes.
Not including the engine, right? Because the engine has its own fee if it were to show up somewhere.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think engines are $250. I don't have that fee schedule in front of me.
It's $150.
$150.
Yep.
So we're at $600
per hour.
Per hour.
Even if it's just sitting there? It's not costing you any money to just sit there.
No, it still needs to run.
I don't really see where the engine costs us anything additional. I mean, it's a piece of equipment and it's there, it has value, but what cost do we incur because it gets used that night and
Instead of
versus
sitting in
a Right.
I guess it depends from the council's perspective of, right, I mean, every time the truck goes out the door, regardless if it's for a call or for public education, there's a cost to that.
Yep.
So we need to put a value to that in some capacity, and like you said, I mean, we're flexible from Zach and I's perspective, trying to figure out what that number is, but we don't want to, I guess, from Zach and I's perspective, provide like false advertising, so to speak, of here's $100, but then this is on top of that, you know, in that
Right,
capacity.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to make it inclusive, but I think people are going to choke on the $1,000. Staff time wise, I mean, that's an additional cost that the city's going to have because that event doesn't occur, you're not paying people to be there.
Yep.
Right.
Does having fireworks add to the value of the city? I'm kind of speaking as someone with a lot of animals who hate fireworks. So from my personal perspective, like just me, I'm like, oh, thank God, no more fireworks. Because it is.
Well, then we should ban it.
Which I'm not saying we should do that either. I'm just saying, like, if we're so worried that we wouldn't have any fireworks anymore, like, is that, like, what is Dayton losing if we don't have fireworks anymore?
It's just
Joy
community.
and
It's just
excitement.
community
Okay.
involvement is what it is.
I'm a curmudgeon. That's why I need to.
No, that's okay. I think, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject.
No, go.
From my perspective, I would just want to make sure that the staff time is paid for, right? Because that's above and beyond what you're, I want to say normal, but that's not a great word for it. It's above and beyond what the fire department provides to the city as far as just like daily operations or protection. And so for me, the $1,000 does feel like a lot. I do feel like that would kill a lot of opportunities to have fireworks. But again, just making sure that we are covering the time and that doesn't just get absorbed into Gary's budget for the department when we have 5, 6, and that's an exaggeration again, fireworks shows and he's eating the cost of paying that every time. And so I guess in my perspective, 1,000 feels like too much, but I would want to make sure that we cover staff time, if that makes sense.
Covering staff time about 450 to 500.
Yes. So, I mean, yeah, 450 is roughly what I figured, provided
You-
that Gary's time is wrapped into his.
Yeah,
It's
so-
just wrapped in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again,
Gary's free.
Yeah. Well, at that
He
point,
is.
yeah, essentially, like it would just be wrapped into the normal salary. So I guess anywhere from that 450, maybe you're not paying for the apparatus, maybe you're paying it for just the first hour, maybe, I know I'm looking right at you, David.
Well, I think a number under 500 is still a reasonable request.
So what do we
For
do
that kind of event.
with the large assembly permit? Because, for example, Bunce, they
Yep.
provide police support. Are we going to charge them for that and kill that?
Here's a solution to the whole thing, and I agree where you're going with that, Dennis, because to me, the idea is to get community involvement through these events. Any community involvement event, to me, shouldn't be charged. However, if you're gonna charge fireworks, to me, you charge police time. And so are you gonna tell Bunces that they gotta pay, I mean, that's probably $500 or better to take care of Bunce.
Which, to be fair,
We-
they did pay that the first few years and it didn't kill the project.
They did agree to pay it for the first?
They did, they
Oh,
were
they did?
invoiced for police time.
So here's
Don't we
here's a
individually
solution to the whole
sort of waive
thing.
those fees when they come up for nonprofits,
Yes.
isn't that?
They can waive them. I mean, we can have the fee in there and they just ask to waive them. I mean, so it'll come back to us at some point. I don't have a problem if you set it at $500 and
If you set it in a different context, so somebody decides they, won the lottery and they want to have a big fireworks show at their house, and please invite me, but,
Happy birthday,
I will.
David.
so now we're not talking about a nonprofit, we're talking about a private
Yeah.
enterprise
Yep.
of some type. Then I don't think it's unfair to ask for them to pay for additional police time for
Right.
traffic control, and then by, in that same vein, I guess, the fireman's time is an additional cost to the city, and I think it's fair to ask for something for that as well. When it comes to the nonprofits, I think we just continue to waive those fees when they come up.
I mean, there is, in there, some of them have, I'm trying to find one specifically, where they have different rates for the nonprofits, or is it just completely waived?
That's just the activity center.
Okay.
Rentals that we've had.
Okay. But I'm saying, we've already established that we, in other contexts, have waived fees for nonprofits. So it would not be unreasonable to have a two-tier fee here, $1,000 for a private entity that wants to have a great time, and then a different fee, or just not charge it at all for a nonprofit, because we've already established that.
You could do that, yeah. So, currently, just make sure the council's aware, you did set aside $22,000 in the budget this year to be able to waive those fees for nonprofits, related to staff time and, so on and so forth. So, most of it's staff time, to be honest with you.
I mean, to me, if we're gonna charge fire department time for Magnus or whatever, we should be charging fire time for Heritage Days, technically.
And we haven't been in the past,
We haven't.
because it's
We
been,
never have.
it's been waived. Yep.
Yeah. So,
Mayor, members of council, quickly too, is just from a staff perspective with our new staffing model. We will have station staffed at least a fair amount of the time, so if it's at least Monday through Friday anyways, we're able to accommodate probably some of those costs within our current budget already. It might just extend out if it's on a Saturday or a Sunday, just at the moment anyway, so just as feedback there as well.
So where are we going with this?
all right.
I'm leaning towards having a regular fee and then a lower fee, or maybe no fee, for civic groups and nonprofits to mirror what we do for the activity center. And I'm okay if it's $600 for a for-profit, and drop it to $200 for civic group / nonprofit. That doesn't seem unreasonable. And then do the same thing for the large assembly permit, because we're also requiring additional staff for those. That should be compensated as well. And same thing, have a profit versus a civic group nonprofit price. Is that reasonable? I'm not the one who has to do the work. You guys have to do the work. Is that going to be really difficult for you guys?
I don't know, the large assembly permit, some of those permit holders don't require police.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
And the large assembly permit, the dollar amount that it's set at, is essentially for them to say, we're having an event, and essentially it's probably a half hour of both chiefs' time
Okay.
to review it and make sure, okay, yeah, we don't need anybody, or, oh, yeah, we're gonna need somebody else, just to
Okay.
make sure. It's more or less just a notification for us.
Okay.
Specifically when we have calls for those, like, hey, I'm
You're
having
aware.
a large assembly out here, and then now we don't know about it, and now we're getting calls, so we're sending every squad we got there, or every fire department there, and now we're like, oh, no, we knew that there was something going on, and it's fine.
So historically, if you look at it and you're like, you know what, we're going to need some extra officers there, then we have historically charged for that in the past? Or, okay.
Essentially, the large assembly permit, what you're paying for on that fee is for our review.
Okay.
Just it's a notification process, basically.
We're basically looking at these are community events,
Yeah.
whether profit or nonprofit, and everybody benefits.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know.
I'd like this one to at least discussed so that we can move on to a different fee on the fee schedule. But again, it's up to the council. The council has the, again, discretion.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on the large assembly permit, if a private citizen requests the large assembly permit, and we do have to have staff time there, we do charge that private residence for
Okay.
our staff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are we adjusting this thing or not? Or
I think I'm lost in the weeds. Can we have a, what are we proposing?
Technically, we haven't made a motion to even do anything.
I don't like the whole fee schedule, not just the fireworks thing, but the whole, I just think we're gouging people, so whatever. You guys do what you want. I'm not.
Okay, so Sarah,
That's a no.
What you're saying is, as far as the fireworks permit,
Yes.
you're saying, what number did you say, 600?
I said 600 for a civic group or nonprofit. No, 600 for
Regular Joe.
for a regular private entity, and then half that, or like 200 for a civic group or nonprofit. So yeah, so I'll say $600 for a regular person. I don't know, that's got to be a better legal term than regular person.
We would just call it a
Standard.
firework.
Yeah, the standard fee is $600,
Or
that's the standard. Or
nonprofit
for civic group or nonprofit, it'd be $200. Go ahead.
I know you don't want to keep beating this
Oh.
up. Can I ask a complicating question?
You can ask any question you want.
And again, this kind of complicates the whole thing, but in the spirit of just wanting to make sure that we're covering staff time, if someone wanted to have fireworks on a Friday night, correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, but we would have, when we moved to the full-time model, we would have 2 full-time firefighters, or 1 full-time, possibly someone from we'd have people on staff until
Correct.
10 o'clock, right?
That is correct.
So that would then change, because those costs would already be, they're already budgeted for. So
Yes.
really, if it happened during the week or a Friday, the fee could be dropped even lower. If we're just in the spirit of trying to cover staff time.
Yes, it could be.
The question is, though, fireworks are usually at night, and if it's in summer at night, you are probably pushing past
10 o'clock,
the 10 o'clock.
yeah.
Yeah, which they're here, so they would just stay till
Yeah.
10:30 or whatever. That's just what they would do.
Yeah, typically, even in the summer, I mean, they're getting, I mean, it's probably after 9,
Yeah.
closer to 9:30 depending. But it's probably going to be an hour extra, I guess, in that capacity. But some of it would already be absorbed into the budget because it's already scheduled time.
And maybe that's just an extra complication that doesn't need to be there. I'm just trying
It's
to
a
make.
lot of granularity to
Oh,
everyone.
I understand, but I guess I'm just trying to eliminate the,
But part of it also then would be averaging it, right? So if it's not always expensive and sometimes it's cheaper, we could bring the overall fee down to, say, 400. And then some days, some people are going to be paying more and some people will be paying less, but overall we're covering it over like the course of a year.
So I'll offer 400 and 100.
400 and 100?
Do you feel better about that, Scott, or are you going to still be no matter what?
That's just the fireworks is not the only thing.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, to increase a on-sale liquor license 25%.
Yeah, that's-
And we got no basis to do it, I mean, just because we can. I mean, to me, you're telling that business, either you pay your money or I don't want you.
I'll tell you, that's not the case. So that's aware. Like I said, it's based on population and it's based on time actually spent.
What
and
does population
Why is
have to do with
population-
the fee? I mean,
Yeah,
it
what
doesn't.
is that?
There's more people going to that facility. There's typically more times that people are there then, which can lead to more chances of having additional
Issues.
items happen. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
I think the state
That's
looks
where all
at
of a
it as,
sudden
well,
Paul's
there's
gonna
more
ask for more
opportunity
money.
for profit there.
Well,
And for reference, City of Rogers
Talk
is 8,000.
have you seen over the past, say, 3, 4, 5 years, increase in calls?
Well, I'm sure you
Yeah.
have.
That would, well, I don't know. I'm pretty familiar with how many the downtown bar sees, and it doesn't seem like their census has gone up.
No, we have not seen an increase in calls. We do extra compliance checks now that we are doing alcohol too. So that averages to probably each establishment $600.
Worth of
600 to
extra
700.
compliance calls?
Correct, because we gotta pay for officer time, and then we pay for we get a grant for the juveniles time that they're here.
Who was doing the checks before?
Hennepin County was supposed to be doing them, but I do not believe that they were doing them on a regular basis. And we took over them when we started our investigation unit. And so now we're doing 4 checks a year on average.
So, have we ever looked at what these cost us? An on-sale license?
It's been $3,000 for.
No. What it actually costs the city?
I don't think
Looking
we've
at
ever
how many
analyzed
calls
it.
there are, how much time they spend down there.
I don't think we've ever analyzed it.
Okay.
Our thought was, okay, it was at 3,000 before, now we're doing actual compliance checks.
So
and
you
actually
just
doing
added
things.
to it.
So I added to it because the $3,000 has been there for
Yeah.
10 plus years, I bet. I bet it's been $3,000. I don't even know.
Would you like to table this until some
Well,
more information?
The problem is the fee schedule, well, I don't know. It's up to you guys. I think, I don't know, it does seem like some of these things.
I mean, again, you can suggest another number if you don't feel like that my number is correct or my number is right. Again, the idea is not to gouge people, but it's just the cost of doing business and cost of things over time. Not gonna be back here next year going, oh, yeah, only 25% increase. But things go up over time, and if it hasn't increased in 10 years, we were probably overcharging then. And so,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to equate costs to where we're at.
Two wrongs make a right.
Not necessarily, but
Based on, I don't know, I guess based on what Paul says, I think I'm a little okay with that. It'd be nice to know if the $3,000 in the original is what we're consuming, but I don't.
Well, we only got a couple of them, so it's,
Right. So,
I mean, 10 years from now, we might have 10.
You mentioned that Rogers was how much?
8,000.
Not that we're Rogers and I don't want to be Rogers. I'm just, sometimes I think context, as you said, where did the 3,000 number come from in the first place? So,
yeah.
Never analyzed the $3,000. It's been there forever and haven't touched it since I got here, so.
Well, it's going to cost something, because I know, I mean, given I was a bartender, I knew that we called them down there a couple times, and I didn't want to get beat up. So. I don't know, where you guys at?
Well, I think, thank you, Paul, for the clarification around your time, because I think that helps me with the increase. Now I'm struggling with the original number, and no fault of anybody here, but if we don't know what that was built on, I mean, it's like when we talk about construction permits for various things, and our cost for a permit ought to be based on what it actually costs us, right? We're not in the business to make money on permits, and this kind of falls in that bucket too. So if we don't know what the 3,000 was based on, I can see adding 1,000 to it, but I'd like to know what it should have been. I mean, maybe 3,000 was low. We don't know, right? Because we're not tracking the components that go into that fee.
would like 3,500 feel better? At least covering because you said what, $600 the additional cost?
I don't know, you know what, maybe it'd just be nice to get a number later on. The 3,000 is probably reasonable, given that we know they get called down there, periodically. It'd be nice to know what that number more realistically is, at least an average between the two that we have.
Oh, what do we got in this city? Just one, right?
Two,
Just two,
Sundance and
Sundance in the bar.
the bar.
So I guess I'd be okay with going with this, as long as we can maybe get a number at some point as to what we really think that estimate is.
Well, and we have two for now. Do we have any coming? I thought are some of the new event centers that are coming online going to be?
Eventually.
Yeah, so.
Not currently.
Not currently, but I'm like,
Yeah.
it's been two for a very long time, but I don't think that's going to last much longer. I would be willing to say by the time Stephanie are done, we're probably going to have more than two, right, in the next 4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Depending on
realistically.
development, there could be a lot of.
I mean,
Sure.
so, the one thing that I guess the one thing I do struggle with is that the cannabis is so much lower.
That's only by state law, yeah.
Yeah.
But that seems, but that we have to take up with our state.
Probably a throw at the wall number two.
Yeah.
Probably.
We will probably be eating costs there.
Yeah, again, that one's based on state statute. There's
Yes.
nothing for
Yeah.
on-sale liquor license for us to go, well, it's based on state statutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there any other
I'm
ones
good
on the
with
fee
that.
schedule that you guys want to discuss or talk about?
I'm going through it right now.
I tried my best to make it as easy as possible to see the changes.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
There's just a lot of them.
well, I did my best to remove a lot of them too, because there's a lot of fees on there that we have.
All right, let's get over this. We beat this to death. I'll say, let's leave the liquor license thing at 3,000. change the fireworks thing to $500. If somebody wants to ask for it, to waive it, they can. We don't need to have the nonprofit profit thing.
Okay.
And that's, I'll live with that.
And you're
I'll make
okay
that
with the
motion.
rest?
Yeah. I guess I'm okay with the rest. I mean, I don't know. I mean, residential or agriculture district application fee, I mean, it used to be 150, now it's 200, so be it. I mean, if somebody wants to build, I mean, that's what it costs. That's just the way it is.
That's based on staff time.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
The $100 is because that's how much more staff time we're putting into it, so it's another hour.
Those are the two big ones I see.
Okay.
I mean, there's a couple of the ones.
All right, so is that a motion from you?
That's a motion. I just
Okay.
want to get it over with.
I will need a second.
Motion to accept it with those changes, is that?
Yeah,
what we're
yeah.
doing? Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. That carries 5-0. And we're finally on to item R. Official designations and appointments.
Sorry. Just want to make sure I got it. It's $3,000 back for the on sale and then
Yep.
$500 for the fireworks instead of $1,000. Other than that, no changes.
Other than that, no changes.
Just want to make sure I had it all right. Thank you. Yes, Mayor, members of council, every single year we go through and discuss our official designations and appointments this year. We did have a few that were on the council previously that need to be replaced. And so this is your time to go through each individual one, kind of line item by line item, and see who wants to do what. Discuss and talk about. We're happy to answer any questions that we have, but staff's here to help. And so I'll make my notes.
I'll go for the park.
Oh, you're gonna,
We'll go, just go down, Mayor, if you want to lead the conversation, just go down each line item and go.
Yeah.
Is everyone good with that?
So, Deputy Mayor, we got Dave. Do you want to really hammer out each one of these, or?
Just say
Yeah,
any changes, the question, yeah. Any changes, if there's nothing, then move on to the next one.
Okay.
Some of them we have to change.
yeah.
Planning Commission, primary and alternate.
I'm fine leaving it there. I'm good
Park
if you're-
Commission, we will definitely need to replace both.
I'll take
I'm willing to do.
Matt's spot.
Okay, I'm willing to be an alternate.
So, okay. Elm Creek Watershed, Doug Baines is our primary, and Travis was the alternate. I don't know,
Doug still would like to be the water.
He can stay there, right?
Yep. He can
yeah,
stay
he
there.
wants to keep it.
Yep.
So we will need an alternate.
I can take that one.
Okay.
Just replace the first one.
Oh, you can ask for coaching.
I don't know.
I'd be surprised if you ever went to a,
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever went to a meeting
I think one. I'm not
or
sure.
not. League of Minnesota Cities, Zach and Amy.
Yep. That's fine, if you guys want to keep that.
That's, I'm fine. Northwest Hennepin League of Municipalities, that is me and Dave.
I'm interested, but if either of you doesn't want to do it, but I'm obviously new. That's part of why I'm interested, so.
Yeah, I'll stay going, that's fine.
Dave, do you want to stay the alternate?
You can have it if you want.
Okay.
I-94 Corridor Commission, Zach and Marty. Yep. Fine with that. I-94 Chamber, me and Dave.
I'm fine
Yeah, I'm fine with
with that.
EDA, HRA, it's Scott and Dave. Those are, by the way, voting members. Okay.
We need an alternate though, don't we?
Oh, yeah, alternate, yep.
I can take it, Stephanie, or you can.
I'm not sure what the alternate does, to be honest with you, Mayor. Because the
Yeah.
alternate is that one of the council members isn't going to show up, we just typically call them absent from the meeting, or at least we have in the past.
Right.
Not that that's right or wrong, I'm not sure if we need an alternate, that's my question.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
Not saying that I'm trying to eliminate things, I'm just, I don't know what the alternate
I
would
think
be.
it's cleaner if you just eliminate it.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know enough to have an opinion.
Okay, we're just going to remove the alternate then, because if you're absent from the meeting, you're absent from the meeting.
Fire Relief Association. How long will that need
Until it goes.
So roughly Plan is mid-year?
Yeah, Mayor, members of council, I would say that that will dissolve here by June 30th as we just, or was in the last council meeting's information.
Okay. So in that time, we'll still need a rep.
Still need a rep for that time, yep.
I think I'm a conflict with that.
I'll do it then.
Sorry.
Assistant weed inspector. Metro Cities, Dave? Still good with that?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
North Metro Mayors is me and Dave.
Takes care of that.
I'm fine with that, and that's that.
Okay.
Everybody good with everything? All right.
So we just need a motion in a second?
Yep, I need a motion in a second.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. 5-0 carries. On to item S.
So we need to appoint a planning commissioner to replace Councilmember Diane Aston. So to finish out her term, just to make the council aware, I unintentionally included one of the applicant's resume in there. My intention was to only include the applications so that you had all the same information on everyone. So it was noticed by other applicants, and then they asked to also provide additional information. And so I did fix the packet online, but just so you're aware, that was not the intention. Others did submit more information, but just to give you all the same basic information in the same format. We just have historically always included the application itself. So I did not intend on giving anyone an unfair advantage by giving you more for one person when others did submit as well.
So this is going to be a little messy given that we have 6. How long was this open for?
From January,
A month?
yeah.
How do we do this?
Right.
So unfortunately, we can't do a
You can't do
private
it right on
vote,
paper,
right?
right?
'Cause it's an open meeting. So you guys collectively need to have that conversation and figure out
Okay, that's how we.
as a majority vote who you would
That's
like
all right.
to go forward.
I got my guy, I mean, I'm just looking through the whole thing, this is, I think, the right person, so,
Well, you want to
Jeff Sargent.
expound on that a little bit?
I will. So I had his name, Jeff Sargent, on the top of my list as well, and it was basically on the strength of his role with the city of New Hope, understanding the processes, how government works, what the role of the planning commission is, and also his educational background to me certainly fits the role and the context of that work as well. So he would be my number one.
Okay, well, I had basically 2 I'd be okay with. Jeff was one of those, and as was Bob Hearns. I had the same kind of thoughts. Jeff seemed to be a good fit. Would have been, yeah, it'd be nice if we could keep it open a little longer, but we probably should just be done with this. Anything else you guys want to?
Just, I would echo you, Dennis, as also the 2 names that I had in that same order for the same reasons that you both stated.
Yeah, yes, I like those names. One thing that I'm a little, and it's hard because I'm replacing myself, but the thing I thought that I brought to the Planning Commission was kind of an outsider perspective. I was not in the field, and so I often asked questions because they live it, right? Like that's their job, like they know it, and so there are sometimes questions that I would ask, and I think that brought value. I just think in my time and as a union president at my school, I put together a lot of hiring committees. And our general rule was we wanted 3 faculty in the discipline, 1 faculty that was not in the discipline, and then a staff person who had nothing to do with it. Because often that staff person who is not a teacher, just they thought of things and brought things up that no one else thought of. And so many times that was really valuable. And that's one thing, but that's my only, I see why you guys have them at the top of your list, but that's my only little, that outsider perspective is missing, so.
I didn't see anybody here I look at as a disruptor.
Yeah, I will agree with that, which is why I don't have any, yeah.
But,
I was not afraid to ask stupid questions and put myself out there, so. But yeah, so I'm okay, Jeff was.
okay, then we need a motion. Second.
I make a motion to appoint Jeff Sargent. Am I saying his last name correctly?
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No, there's no no's.
Carried 5-0 then. All right.
But you said no.
No,
A
I said
bunch.
aye. I said aye and no.
We
I
were
wasn't
mumbling,
paying
so I was
attention to
wrong.
where, I wasn't paying attention to where
Okay.
you're going with it.
Well, that went
Is Jeff here?
better than what I thought.
There he is.
Ah.
Congratulations.
Speaking of. Okay, on to pot, item T. That is not plain old telephone line, that is something
Thank you,
else.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I will just note I am not the assistant weed inspector.
Oh, come on.
The primary.
Primary.
So as mentioned, you were asked tonight to consider an ordinance amendment regarding cannabis use in the zoning ordinance. Just a little bit of background. In 2023, Minnesota legislature legalized adult use cannabis statewide. The state originally created 16 licenses and have since been revised to 13, having some of those medical uses or medical licenses being turned into endorsements. So if you were a retail licensed operator, you do not need a separate license for medical retail. That's just considered an endorsement now. The state did give zoning authority to the local governments, providing them the opportunity to regulate businesses in their communities specific to time, place, and manner. And just a note for the council, it is required by state that we allow all of these licenses within a certain capacity within the city. There's a list of the 13 licenses there. Just a little bit of background on the licensing process. The state will receive an application for a cannabis license with an identified site, which then the Office of Cannabis Management will reach out to city staff to verify compliance, and city staff will have 30 days to verify that information. Cannabis businesses currently now have the opportunity to obtain a state license as of January 1st, 2025, though I've seen multiple news articles saying that even retail businesses could be set back as late as 2026 now in terms of full operation. The Planning Commission held a public hearing regarding this item at their December meeting following brief discussion and conversation for both the Planning Commission and City Council in September. In terms of land use, nothing really changed from the original discussion that the council had. The provisions in this draft ordinance reflect where these types of uses would normally be allowed. Manufacturing would be allowed in industrial, and retail would be allowed in commercial, including the provision to limit these activities to occur only within a building. So outdoor storage and items like that would not be otherwise permitted at these locations. The original discussion, or at the public hearing, the Planning Commission gave staff direction to require a conditional use permit for all retail locations to start. And as we learn and as we process those applications, we would then update the ordinance as necessary from common findings that we would have in terms of conditions of approval for those. They've since changed their mind on that and agreed with City Council that they would just treat this retail use as you would see tobacco and liquor within the city. I will note that within that discussion, and this is kind of the one item that I have that's still outstanding for this, other than that it seems pretty buttoned up, is that the Planning Commission recommended that to allow standalone businesses, standalone retail in the I-1 district, just based on the type of retail and kind of the hiddenness of the zoning districts within the city for industrial versus commercial being on main frontages.
So maybe you're answering this question, sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
But seems timely. So in a bunch of the areas that are identified, as zoning areas, GMU1, GMU2, et cetera, it's a permitted principal use, and then like GMU4 and I1, it's a conditional use permit. And so can you talk a little bit about the logic behind having that separation?
Sure. So the I1 just being separate because the tobacco and alcohol retail is not permitted within the industrial district, the I1. What you see for the commercial, and I can pull this up on the next slide here. What you see here in terms of cannabis retailers, where it is permitted is where you would see liquor stores and tobacco stores permitted within the city. The Balsam Lane area, which is the GMU4, is actually the only area that requires a conditional use permit for liquor stores and tobacco sales. So it was essentially to reflect what and where those liquor store and tobacco sales are allowed and at what capacity.
So it's mimicking what we already do for those.
Exactly.
Those two items, okay.
And I think that was a consensus understanding from the council. That was kind of how you guys had wanted to see that. The one thing that I do want to note is that while the Planning Commission did recommend to allow this as a use within the I-1 for related to retail, staff recommend that not be included within this ordinance, just based on retail not being historically allowed as standalone businesses within industrial districts, just like how tobacco sales and alcohol sales are not permitted within the industrial district. Just to add to that, there are mechanisms and licenses that allow retail sales within the industrial district, and that would be by way of a meso business or a micro business, which basically has multiple components to it, where there's production and manufacturing going on one end of the building, as well as maybe having a storefront for retail. So there are still capabilities for industrial locations to have retail, given that there be an industrial component along with that.
I'm fine with that change.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Well, which change? Just to make sure
The taking out of the I1, the standalone.
The standalone retail.
Okay. So I just want to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, no, it's totally.
And the way the ordinance is written, aside from that, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have. I got nothing.
I don't necessarily have a question because I was at the Planning Commission, so know what we all had to say, but we didn't have anyone from the police there at the time when we had these conversations. I don't recall. So do you have anything to add to this?
No, we work with staff prior to even going to Planning Commission.
Okay, good.
So I'll make the motion to approve with that amendment around the I-1 district.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
And with that, if there are no objections, we will be adjourned. We're adjourned.